My wife, who's 36, and I, who's 39, have been together for 7 years and married for 5. We've had our share of good and bad times like any couple, but I believed our relationship was strong with trust and love. We both had regular jobs, and though we weren't rich, we were happy and comfortable. About a year ago, my wife, let's call her Anna, got really interested in personal finance. She started reading books, watching YouTube videos, and going to seminars on the topic. I supported her new interest, thinking it was great that she wanted to improve our finances for a better future. Honestly, I don't know much about finance. Besides basic things like mutual funds, I'm pretty clueless about investing. I only have a superficial understanding and don't invest much except in mandatory tax-saving schemes. Coming from a marketing background, I have limited exposure to finance, so I usually rely on tax consultants like most people do. With the rise of finance influencers on social media, Anna got into learning about it too. She wanted to understand the stock market and cryptocurrency. While I get the stock market, crypto is way beyond my understanding. I did join Anna for a few virtual seminars at first, but the concept seemed alien to me. Things were fine until she started spending more time with a wealthy investor she met at one of these seminars, whom she called D. D was supposedly mentoring her on investing and wealth building. The mentoring concept is becoming more common in America, with everyone claiming to be a mentor. She also stopped contributing money to household expenses, saying she was investing in our future. I trusted her and managed all the household bills on my own. I didn't pay much attention, but as weeks turned into months, their relationship raised serious concerns. Anna spent a lot of time with D, even late into the night. She justified it by saying she had a day job and evening was the only time for her passion. When I expressed my concerns, she got defensive and belittled me for not understanding investments. She mocked me, saying she'd make us rich and I'd regret not supporting her. I tried not to interfere, but when the red flags became obvious, I had to be alert. She also started dressing provocatively, but I didn't bring it up since I'd never commented on her clothes before. However, she neglected our relationship, so I confronted her. As usual, she brushed off my concerns, saying she was securing our future, and I should be supportive, not judgmental. Gradually, I became distant because I felt like I was carrying the relationship alone. I thought she'd notice, but she was too busy learning about investments, and we became more like housemates. We rarely spoke unless it was important, even though we lived in the same house. After her day job, she went out for seminars or mentorship classes. One evening, I walked past the seminar hall where Anna's mentor, D, used to teach a finance class. Something prompted me to go inside and see what was happening. Upon entering, I noticed a different event taking place. I inquired with the security staff about D's company seminars and their frequency. They informed me that these seminars were not regular, with the last one occurring months ago. Outside, I saw some guys in t-shirts promoting a finance masterclass with the influencer's name. I approached them, got details, and took note of everything. The influencer held seminars every 2 to 3 months, but mentorship classes, led by mentors like D in cafes, were weekly from 7 to 9 p.m. Anna used to come home after midnight. I gathered details from the cafe and left. The next day, I asked Anna if she had a class that day, and she curtly replied, "I have classes every day." Despite this, I knew from my previous findings that the class was only on Saturdays. In the evening, I visited the cafe and witnessed Anna in an intimate situation with D. I observed them exchanging flirtatious glances and recorded their interactions. I stood at a distance, watching until they engaged in a more intimate act. I recorded it when they were about to kiss, and then sat at their table, identifying myself as Anna's soon-to-be ex-husband. Anna tried to explain it as a one-on-one mentoring session, but I sarcastically remarked on the close mentoring. The other guy laughed and left, showing a player's attitude. Directly asking Anna if she slept with the other guy, she admitted to it, justifying it as part of an investing deal. She claimed it was a component of her personal finance education, where D promised significant earnings after completing the classes and fulfilling his requests, which included sleeping with him. She agreed to it, and I sensed she was trying to justify her actions. I played along for a while, asking if it was consensual. She confirmed it, saying it was a one-time thing for our future. Losing my temper, I shouted at her, questioning why she took it upon herself to secure our future. I told her she didn't need to think about mine. I could handle it. I yelled so loudly that people nearby glared at us. I stood up and left the cafe. Outside, she tried to hold my arms, but I shrugged her off, telling her to go to her mentor and not come home. Returning home devastated, I couldn't believe she used the pretext of learning personal finance to hide her infidelity. A few minutes later, Anna arrived, claiming it wasn't for fun. She slept with him to learn money-making tricks. I asked her to leave the house, and she pleaded, insisting it wasn't cheating but part of a business. I couldn't understand what kind of business she was involved in. I told her there was no point sleeping with her mentor to learn personal finance. She could earn actual money without doing so. She got angry, saying she'd prove me wrong, calling me too old-fashioned to understand modern concepts. She went into a mode of showing off her potential earnings, claiming she'd be a billionaire while I'd retire with little money. I told her she could do whatever she wanted, but not while with me. She packed her stuff and left. 2 days later, on Saturday, she returned, stating she wasn't there to apologize but to take her remaining stuff. I didn't respond, and she drove off. She seemed unremorseful, choosing her actions over our relationship. Update. Not much has occurred except for the divorce, so here's a quick update. Anna didn't come close to learning personal finance. It looked more like a scam than an investment. I don't know a lot about it, but anyone promising quick money and huge returns is suspicious. Making money genuinely isn't easy, and it certainly doesn't happen overnight. But it's not my concern anymore. My divorce was finalized last week, and it went smoothly. I don't have significant wealth for her to fight over. Our home was a rented condo. In terms of alimony, she earned almost as much as me. Also, she cheated, so she isn't entitled to pay alimony. The joint account is closed, and we split the money. We don't have children, so there's no question of child support. Thank goodness we don't have kids. It would have complicated things. It's not as easy as it sounds. I'm still coping with her cheating. She's been telling everyone I'll come back, begging for reconciliation when she's rich, after learning about personal finance risks. I wished her luck. Show everyone that our divorce happened because I was insecure about her progress. She labeled me as controlling and jealous, but I listened with a smile and showed everyone the video I recorded of her with the fair partner. She hid her face after that, and common friends quickly changed their alliances. The last I heard about her, she was living with her mom during the divorce period. She's definitely not remorseful for what she destroyed. I don't know if she's genuinely learning personal finance or investing, or if it was just an excuse for an affair. If she succeeds in sorting her finances, good for her. I don't want money tainted with infidelity. By the way, recently I started watching a lot of videos on investing. I might be jumping to conclusions too fast. I don't know, but with ample free online videos providing enough information for beginners, I highly doubt you need a mentor for this. It's something you can self-examine. Right now, I'm trying to distance myself from any conversation that involves her. It was mentally draining. I've picked up my painting hobby to keep myself distracted, joined a fitness club to shed extra calories, and I'm focusing on eating healthy and keeping drinks in check. I drank too much during the pre-divorce period and gained a lot of extra pounds. I'll update the list if anything progresses. Update. It wasn't a finance class, it was a scam, and that's the truth. The main point in this update is that Anna fell wounded person to a scam. Remember that finance influencer who conducted seminars? Turns out he was a scam artist, deceiving people and making false promises of significant returns. Anna invested about 30% of her income in that scheme, even selling valuable assets like her family heirloom diamond ring and platinum necklace to go all in. It appears everything was just a scam. The influencer is now on the run, and his teammates, including the affair partner, have been arrested with an ongoing investigation. After this news broke, those Anna had boasted to about her impending riches mocked her. She had flaunted her newfound knowledge, belittling those with limited investment understanding. Now, those same people are targeting and making fun of her. Apparently, she blocked many of those mocking her, even dedicating her social media account due to being tagged in posts related to the finance influencer she supported. It's a lesson in not boasting before achieving victory, something she had been doing all along. I've made significant progress, shedding extra weight and getting into muscle training, which I enjoy. I've also returned to painting, and it feels really good. I haven't rushed into dating yet, not because I'm trying to forget the past, but simply because I'm not ready for it. Clearly, he was a scammer who managed to deceive her. Update. I had a visitor, and it turned out to be Anna. She looked really sad and told me she had fallen for a scam. A business partner and his boss, who was into fraud, had cheated a lot of people, including her, and ran off with their money to another country. I asked if the partner got caught, but she said no. The partner and a few other mentors were close to the fraud boss and managed to escape at the right time, leaving the rest of the team behind. I asked if she came to me because her partner ran away, but she said no. She claimed she loved me and wanted to talk. I reminded her that we were already divorced, so there was no point in talking. She said karma punished her. She lost a lot of money and respect, and people were mocking her. She pointed out that I came out fine from the situation and asked what more I wanted. I told her I wanted peace, her out of my life, and at that moment, out of my house. She then suggested that now that she and Dee had nothing between them, we could get back together. I disagreed, saying Dee wouldn't have taken her because he had many women like her learning money-making tricks. She pleaded for reconciliation, saying she wasn't emotionally involved with her partner and got carried away by the idea of getting rich quickly. I made it clear that getting back together was not an option. I had moved on, and her pleading didn't affect me. If she had pleaded when her affair was exposed, I might have considered forgiveness, but seeing her true colors changed that. She came back to me only after losing everything, still mocking me as she left the house. During the divorce, she showed no remorse. Now, when she lost everything, she came to me. Unbelievable. I told her to leave because I had to go to my fitness class. She commented on my appearance, asking if I was dating someone. I said it was none of her business. She started crying, saying I was rude. I told her she should thank me for being civil and listening to her. After what she did, she shouldn't be allowed in my house. Despite that, I remained polite and entertained her. She held my hands and kept apologizing. I told her crying and begging meant nothing to me now. I used to love her, but I've moved on. She left after I became cold toward her pleas. A few days later, her mother called, asking to meet urgently. I agreed, and over coffee the next day, she apologized for Anna. I hugged her and said it wasn't her fault. She didn't need to say sorry. Unlike Anna, she had always been sweet to me, even during the divorce, and didn't speak badly about me. She asked me if I could get back together with Anna because she felt Anna was really sorry for what she did. She explained that Anna was constantly crying and falling into depression. She was worried that Anna might even become suicidal because she lost all her savings, part of her monthly salary, and some valuable jewelry pieces, which I had mentioned before. I didn't know Anna had lost her savings. Anna was always saving, and I'm sure she had at least $100,000. Losing such a large amount of money can affect anyone's mental health. I questioned how getting back together would help Anna deal with the depression from losing money. She said that Anna truly loved me, and even in her lowest moments, having me in her life could bring her some happiness. To be honest, I did feel sorry for Anna. I even briefly considered getting back together, but that feeling didn't last long. I quickly returned to my decision not to take her back. I told her I couldn't do it. I didn't love her anymore. It turned into a cycle of tears and pleas to help her daughter avoid depression. I stood firm on my decision and suggested taking Anna to therapy. She needed counseling more than a husband. My ex-mother-in-law was disappointed that I declined her request, but understood my perspective. There was one more thing that would have upset Anna more, and that was my investment journey. I followed some genuine finance YouTubers who helped me understand personal finance and investing on a broader level. This knowledge greatly assisted in building my portfolio. And guess what? I'm already making a good profit. I've ventured into the stock and bond markets too. However, I'm still unsure about crypto trading and don't want to step into unfamiliar territory. I'm taking things at a steady pace, learning one thing at a time. Understanding the stock market has reinforced my belief that making money takes time, patience, and courage. I'm hoping to come out of this stronger before thinking about dating again. I still don't feel ready for it. Second story. I'm a 37-year-old guy, and I've been married to Judy, who's 32, for 2.5 years. It's tough to pinpoint a specific moment that defines everything, but things took a bad turn after a frustrating phone call. I was in the living room catching up on football highlights I missed when Judy's phone started ringing, annoyingly interrupting the game. Fed up with the ringtone cutting into the commentary, I brought her phone to the kitchen, asking her to answer it. Then, the phone rang again, and she seemed ready to snap at the caller. Since we both worked in the corporate world, Judy had a rule about keeping our work life separate from our home life. She believed it was our responsibility to separate the two and encouraged me to do the same. She avoided work calls on weekends and preferred emails for urgent matters. I expected her to get upset, but she stayed silent, and her expression changed. It wasn't until dinner that she shared what the call was about. "They are transferring out of state," she said. "Transfer? Why? Where?" I asked, realizing the situation. "I told you about the company's expansion. The board wants to transfer people to the new site to monitor branch development," she explained. I understood how transfers usually worked, often without external commitment. Being married, she wouldn't be considered for a transfer unless she requested it. I asked if she applied, and she said no. I suggested rejecting it, but she explained it came with a promotion she'd been working hard for. Judy was ambitious, a quality I admired. For a year, she worked tirelessly for the promotion, volunteering and ensuring her team functioned smoothly. It was finally paying off, although not in the way we expected. Her salary doubled with perks, but I knew it wasn't about the money. She wanted to climb the corporate ladder. "What should I do?" she asked. It wasn't her fault, but she put me in a tough spot. I had two options: tell her to reject the transfer, losing the promotion, or support her pursuit of her hard-earned career advancement. Thinking people make long-distance marriages work, although I hadn't seen many examples, I convinced myself it could be done. Not wanting to hold her back, I told her, "I'm going to support you. Whatever decision you make, we can make it work." Boy, do I regret those words. Her eyes lit up, and I thought I made the right decision. I convinced myself it would work, remembering friends who traveled for business and sustained their marriages. Looking back, she didn't really leave me much of an option to refuse. If I had honestly shared my opinion and asked her not to take the job, she would have considered it. But knowing Judy well, I sensed it would come at a cost, possibly leading to the collapse of our marriage. I didn't want that. I also disliked the idea of her being far away. However, if our marriage hung in the balance, the lesser evil seemed to be letting go. It looked like the only logical decision, and faced with a similar situation again, I'm not sure if I would choose differently. She spent the evening thanking me for being understanding, but I couldn't shake the wave of irritation, realizing my wife had manipulated me into feeling self-conscious so that my decision favored her. I was sure she had baited me. However, it's hard to say. A manager, seeing her excitement after finalizing travel arrangements, and I had a lengthy discussion about making the marriage work. We planned to call every day to stay involved in our daily lives. The idea of cheating never crossed my mind because I believed Judy was too goal-oriented, especially since her company agreed to give her 5 days off every month. "It'll work," she assured me just before boarding the plane. Little did I know that my marriage had ended in that instant. Every long-distance relationship starts the same way. Calls around the clock, even with Bluetooth earphones so we could talk while she worked. For the first 2 months, it seemed to work. We were on the phone more, and I knew more about her life than when I lived with her. Suddenly, it didn't feel like I'd made the wrong decision prioritizing her ambition over my needs. We were in a good place, at least until 2 months ago. Judy called one morning to cancel her trip back to Michigan. Her company's quarterly performance had been below par, and she had to work on recruiting more capable professionals to fill out administrative roles to make her job easier. I didn't mind, as I was on the verge of closing a huge deal that would give me more flexibility in how I worked. The compensation for closing the deal was worth millions. With that, I could be closer to my wife. 5 days were inconsequential when I could be with her as long as I wanted. I kept the deal a secret to surprise her after it was sealed. To make that happen, I needed to be at my best, which meant no distractions of any type. I didn't call her, and she didn't call me. It was the longest we had gone without talking on the phone. We still texted on WhatsApp, but we were both too busy for meaningful conversation. I'm explaining everything because a few days ago, a mutual friend called me callous and manipulative after hearing what happened. If you ask me, I'm neither of those things. I consider myself a wounded person, which is why I'm here recounting everything between myself and Judy. Anyway, back to the story. The big deal came through, ensuring my family's financial security for life. It was a game changer, making me part of the elite 10% of America in terms of wealth. That night, while waiting for confirmation, I resisted the temptation to call her. I wanted to tell her about the past week and how our lives would change. Judy's biggest dream was a trip to Paris. Instead of calling her, I planned our vacation there: ticket, hotel, food, places to visit. I had everything sorted out and was going to break the news together, all at once. I scrolled through my WhatsApp and landed on her story. She was hugging this guy, Henry. Tall, olive skin, brown hair, blue eyes. He looked no younger than 35. He was the first person employed when she started working. He was from the area, knew about the job, and she needed his expertise. Underneath the picture, she captioned, "Dark times reveal angels." I should have suspected something was wrong. I think I did because I held off from telling her that the deal came through when it did. Instead, I took the next available flight I could find to California to see her. As you may have already guessed, she was having an affair with Henry. I phoned Judy's workplace in Michigan to find out where she was, since I planned a surprise visit. Luckily, the receptionist who answered was a mutual friend, so convincing her not to tell Judy was easy. Throughout the flight, I imagined scenarios of how Judy might react. After sharing news of the deal, I went straight to her branch from the airport, hoping to have dinner with her to break the news. However, I learned she hadn't reported to work that day, so I had to Uber myself to the given address. I wondered why the branch receptionist was surprised to find that Judy was married, but I didn't press, since I knew Judy liked to keep her life private. After climbing 4 flights of stairs, I arrived at her door with a bouquet of flowers behind my back. Right before knocking, I heard Judy moan, "Keep going, keep going." It made me sick. Just 5.5 months away and she cheated. Rage surged, but I tried to stay composed. I left her apartment and drove back to her office to instruct the receptionist not to mention my visit, even tipping her $100. I stayed in a hotel close to her apartment to keep a close watch. Over the week, I discreetly followed her with a rental car, and she didn't suspect a thing. She moved between work, yoga, and her apartment, making it easy to track her. This is how I found out she spent a lot of time with Henry, and it wasn't hard to deduce he was the one she was cheating with. I called and messaged her during this time, but she used work as an excuse and begged me to give her space to get her professional life in order. At that moment, I decided not to let myself be played by her anymore. I drafted divorce letters and waited for her return with Henry. It seemed like all they did was have closeness. Upon arriving at her door, I heard nothing but moans, grunts, and groans. I picked the lock, tiptoed to her bedroom with my phone, recording everything. As disgusting as it was to watch, I recorded a full minute of their relationships before revealing myself. In that moment, while she scrambled for clothes, I felt powerful. Seeing her anguish when I threatened to share the video with her colleagues and family justified my decision to end things. She begged for forgiveness, saying she'd resign and go to therapy, but I was disgusted by her actions, unable to entertain her pleas. She said she resigned and dropped off signed divorce papers yesterday, but I still sent the video to her parents. I want them to see the kind of person their child became. Some comments suggested she checked out of the relationship when she took the job. She had been wanting this for a while, and probably cheating on you for a while as well. She manipulated you into agreeing to take the job, practically forcing you into saying yes. Huge, life-changing decisions like that will have a drastic impact on the family. Update. My wife got moved to a different state to oversee the opening of her company's new branch. While there, she started a relationship with a coworker. I found out about it during a surprise visit after our divorce. I took some time to sort myself out, and for a bit, I was occupied enough to not dwell on the whole situation. I went on vacation to the Dominican Republic for a week, which was pretty awesome. One evening, I got a Reddit notification about a post. When I wrote it, I mainly wanted to vent my anger, irritation, disgust, and rage. Surprisingly, it gained a lot of attention. Reading through the comments, one post stood out. Someone shared a similar experience, mentioning feeling miserable for not taking revenge to the extent needed to satisfy their spirit. It might sound strange, and it was definitely an unpopular opinion, as many people, judging by their comments, were content with me just exposing her infidelity to her parents and getting her fired without going further. It was somewhat satisfying to see her relationship with her parents fall apart after the video, But other than that, it seemed like I hadn't accomplished much. Last I heard, she was in a motel working at a night bar, fittingly ironic for the cheater she is. About 3 weeks after returning from the Dominican Republic, she showed up at my door, begging me to forgive her and take her back. It was amusing to watch. She seemed like all she did was cry in her spare time, bloodshot, swollen, and puffy eyes. Whether it was from crying or dealing with some issues, I didn't care. In fact, I realized there wasn't much I could do to her. She was already an emotional wreck. I decided to shift my focus to the guy she cheated on me with, Henry. I let her in, and she probably thought I was reconsidering the divorce because she immediately started explaining herself, thinking I hadn't gone through with it. She even claimed to have lost her parents' respect and that my actions made her regret what she did. I posed a test question, something I knew she'd fail, just to be sure I wasn't seen as callous or wicked for having a justified motive. I looked her in the eye and asked how many times it happened. You'd expect her to learn from the experience and regain some dignity by telling the truth, but she said once, swearing it was the truth. According to her, running a failing business, with expenses 3 times more than revenue, became a burden. She didn't want to burden me further, thinking she already asked too much by pursuing her ambition. I wasn't bothered by her excuses. What stunned me was how effortlessly she could lie to my face. It was hard to believe our entire relationship had any truth to it after that. My dad always thought it was almost impossible to look someone in the eye and lie. Well, he was way off. Honestly, I wasn't sure how many times they got together, but I had a sense of when it started, and it definitely wasn't just once. I might have doubted her lies if I hadn't followed her for the first 2 weeks in Michigan, and on the day I arrived, she was making quite a scene in her room. Her obsession with privacy didn't matter much then, but I kept my cool and didn't let on that I knew. What about Henry? Who knows? He's probably still in Michigan with his wife. Imagine my surprise when I found out Henry was married. Despite the frustration, I stayed calm. I saw an opportunity to extend my revenge to hurt not only her, but also Henry. There was no way he'd walk away without facing the consequences. I didn't need a mirror to know my acting skills weren't Oscar-worthy, but the way she eagerly spilled everything, including lies about how Henry manipulated her, made me sure she was unsuspecting. I was baiting her. After telling her to give me time to think, I ushered her out and immediately sent the video to everyone who knew her, including her receptionist friend at the office. First, I booked a ticket to Michigan to use the information Judy gave me about Henry's marriage, but I planned to damage him where it hurts. I rented a studio apartment close to him, watching from a distance, waiting for the videos of his escapades with my ex-wife to drop. Meanwhile, I observed his wife, Annie. She was gorgeous, with flowing blonde hair, stormy gray eyes, and a scary smile. Although my initial plan was to bait her into a compromising situation, I had a change of heart. But I know what you're thinking. Aside from the money, I'm a pretty decent-looking guy. Decent enough to be prom king? Anyway, Annie was a kind and genuinely caring person. I was particularly surprised by her honesty. We went from greeting by the roadside to having coffee over an accidental bump, and I orchestrated it over coffee. I learned a lot about her, and for some days, I forgot why I was in Michigan in the first place. It was one of those friendships that was just easy to keep. I even started seeing less of Henry for a while, thinking the plan didn't go as I wanted. Apparently, he'd been fired and spent all his time looking for a new job, trying not to raise suspicion from Amy. During our discussions, I learned Henry was an immigrant who came to the United States on a student visa. Amy also told me about her marital issues. She explained how her husband barely touched her and barely paid her any mind until about 2 months ago when things suddenly changed. What she didn't know was that she provided enough information to ruin Henry's story. They hadn't been married for 3 years, meaning Harry wasn't a citizen, even if he had applied for the green card. I needed Amy to turn on her husband, so I told her the truth about everything. At first, she was mad at me for lying, but she soon got over it. I showed her the video and explained how it haunted my dreams, knowing they were both going about their miserable lives, not justifiably affected by their actions. Luckily, it didn't take much to convince Amy. In the next hour, we planned how she would confront Henry. I wasn't there to witness the drama, but I made sure he knew I was behind everything bad happening to him. Last I heard, He was getting deported to wherever he came from. Honestly, now I can say I feel satisfied.